Imagine a mother holding a child sick from contaminated water while a state-of-the-art water filter sits uselessly on her counter because she cannot afford the expensive replacement cartridge. This is the cruel and unforgiving reality of the modern survival industry. They sell you the comforting illusion of safety, but silently trap you in an endless cycle of financial dependency. But what if I told you the ultimate cure for lethal water is currently growing wildly in a ditch right outside your front door? Right now, across America, people are violently pulling this exact plant out of their pristine gardens and throwing it straight into the trash. They aggressively label it as a useless weed. They view it as nothing more than an agricultural nuisance. Yet this humble green plant holds a biological power that absolutely terrifies the wealthy executives of a $4.5 billion water purification empire. It does not just lightly filter your drinking water, it chemically obliterates dangerous bacteria, eradicates lethal viruses, and strips away heavy toxic sediment with terrifying efficiency. If you scoop up a jar of the thickest, brownest, most contaminated river mud, this discarded plant will turn it crystal clear in under 60 minutes. I am not talking about a slight improvement or a marginal camping trick passed down by amateurs. I am talking about a scientifically proven, measurably superior result compared to the most expensive synthetic filters lining the shelves of premium outdoor stores. The United Nations officially documented this miraculous capability back in 1983. The World Health Organization thoroughly confirmed these exact findings in 2008 after rigorous testing. So you must ask yourself why this life-saving botanical marvel is completely absent from every major survival guide in the Western world. You need to question why the massive water filter industry has spent decades ensuring that this specific name never reaches your ears. You must deeply understand that they did not simply forget about this biological phenomenon by accident. Forgetting implies an innocent mistake made by careless scientists. They deliberately and systematically buried this knowledge deep underground. They executed a calculated, ruthless decision to hide the truth, because you cannot build a recurring subscription model around a plant that anyone can grow for free in their backyard. You are about to discover the hidden and suppressed story of Moringa Oleifera. You will finally understand the exact molecular warfare it wages against deadly waterborne contaminants. More importantly, you will learn why the very concept of free, permanently purified water was deemed a direct threat to global corporate profits. To comprehend the sheer magnitude of this financial cover-up, we must first travel back in time to a colonial jungle where the true power of this plant was witnessed in blood and desperation. The year was 1817. Deep within the unforgiving jungles of colonial India, a British army surgeon named James Kempthorne watched helplessly as his men perished one by one. They were not dying from the bloody wounds of combat or sudden enemy ambushes. They were being slaughtered from the inside out by an invisible, silent assassin hiding in their only source of hydration. Dysentery and cholera ravaged the military camp, turning seemingly clean, clear water into a lethal cocktail of microscopic death. Desperation settled over the surviving troops as their advanced medical supplies proved entirely useless against this relentless biological onslaught. It was in this dark moment of absolute despair that the local indigenous population intervened to save their occupiers. They gently led Kempthorne deep into the dense forest and pointed to a remarkably ordinary-looking tree. It was a plant so incredibly common and visually unimpressive that the arrogant British colonizers had completely ignored its existence for years. The locals calmly gathered the dried seeds from the hanging pods, crushed them into a fine, pale powder, and stirred this simple dust directly into a barrel of heavily contaminated, muddy water. Kempthorne documented the exact timeline of the miracle that unfolded before his very eyes. Within a mere 45 minutes, the murky brown liquid had visibly transformed, separating into heavy sludge at the bottom and crystal clear water at the top. Within one single hour, the deadly bacterial counts had plummeted by an astonishing 99%. Kempthorne meticulously recorded this staggering biological phenomenon in his official medical field notes. Yet when he submitted these groundbreaking findings to his superiors in 1819, the British military bureaucracy simply filed the report away in a dark, dusty cabinet. They ignorantly categorized it as a primitive native trick, closed the drawer, and aggressively forgot about it. 160 long years passed in complete silence, while millions of people worldwide continued to die from preventable waterborne diseases. The secret remained buried until a brilliant researcher named Dr. Samia Al-Ajariya Jan at the University of Khartoum finally unearthed Kempthorne's forgotten notes. She courageously decided to run the very first rigorous modern scientific tests on this ancient botanical knowledge. When she officially published her comprehensive analysis in 1981, the global scientific community was forced to pay extremely close attention. Her laboratory findings revealed a mechanism of action unlike anything ever seen before in the history of natural water treatment. She discovered that moringa seeds contain highly complex molecular structures known to science as cationic proteins. These specific proteins carry a massive positive electrical charge. Meanwhile, the dissolved bacteria, lethal viruses, and microscopic suspended particles floating in dirty water naturally carry a negative electrical charge. As basic physics dictates, opposite charges attract each other with tremendous, inescapable force. At the microscopic level, these potent plant proteins aggressively bind to every single toxic contaminant they encounter in the water. They forcefully drag the bacteria and viruses together, clumping them into large, heavy masses in a rapid scientific process known as flocculation. Once these toxic clumps become too heavy to float, they sink rapidly and permanently settle at the very bottom of your container. What remains perfectly floating on top is pure, pristine water that has been systematically stripped of its lethal biological contamination. This exact process of coagulation and flocculation is the fundamental mechanism utilized in every single modern multi-million-dollar municipal water treatment plant today. However, there is one critical, profit-driven difference that changes the entire landscape of global water purification. Modern treatment plants rely heavily on aluminum sulfate, a highly synthetic, aggressively manufactured industrial chemical. This chemical must be produced in massive factories, heavily packaged, and shipped across the globe at an enormous financial cost. It demands a recurring budget for every single treatment cycle without any exception. Furthermore, this industrial process generates a highly toxic aluminum sludge as an absolutely unavoidable and environmentally damaging byproduct. Moringa performs the exact identical job with staggering precision, yet it grows wildly anywhere, costs absolutely nothing to produce, and leaves behind zero chemical residue. It provides a flawless purification cycle with zero toxic byproducts and zero ongoing financial cost to the desperately thirsty consumer. The sheer perfection of this natural process led to an explosive series of modern field trials that would completely terrify the modern survival industry and force them to take immediate, drastic action to hide the truth. In 1983, the United Nations officially released a comprehensive, globally circulated report detailing this exact discovery. The World Health Organization explicitly followed suit in 2008. Both of these massive international institutions publicly declared moringa to be one of the most promising, highly effective, and lowest-cost water treatment solutions ever identified in human history. Let us deeply examine the shocking mathematical reality that terrifies corporate executives. A single dried moringa seed contains a highly concentrated payload of roughly 100 milligrams of active purifying powder. When this specific seed is properly harvested and correctly prepared, that microscopic concentration is entirely sufficient to completely treat 1 full liter of heavily contaminated water. Researchers stationed at the University of Ghana decided to push this plant to its absolute limits during intense, controlled field trials in 2012. They did not use perfectly balanced laboratory tap water. They boldly gathered their test samples directly from the notoriously polluted Volta River during a massive flood event. The final results absolutely shattered modern scientific expectations. Dangerous turbidity levels violently plummeted by a staggering 98.3%. Lethal E. coli bacterial counts drastically fell by an undeniable 99.1%. Total coliform contamination was aggressively reduced by 97.8%. These are incredibly raw, unfiltered results derived from a real river at its absolute most toxic and polluted point. A subsequent peer-reviewed study published in the prestigious Journal of Water and Health in 2016 forced a direct, head-to-head comparison between raw moringa seeds and standard synthetic aluminum sulfate. The humble seed flawlessly matched the expensive industrial chemical completely in terms of turbidity removal. More shockingly, The natural plant significantly outperformed the synthetic chemical in total bacterial elimination while leaving absolutely zero detectable toxic residue in the final drinking water. The lead scientist on the project publicly called the outcome scientifically remarkable. So you must critically ask yourself why this miraculous solution is completely missing from the shelves of every outdoor sporting goods store in America. You need to demand to know why it is not standard issue in every single military survival kit distributed worldwide. You must question why the Environmental Protection Agency has aggressively refused to officially certify Moringa as an approved water treatment method. The sinister answer lies within the heavily guarded financial structure of a $4.5 billion industry. Look closely at the massive corporate giants dominating the market right now. Brands like Brita, LifeStraw, Sawyer, Katadyn, and Berkey absolutely dominate your perception of water safety. Every single one of these companies operates on a deeply flawed, highly profitable business model. They initially sell you an expensive primary device, but the true trap is that they continuously force you to buy expensive proprietary replacements. You are trapped buying replacement carbon cartridges, replacement ceramic filters, and replacement micron membranes. This predatory corporate model strictly requires that you never fully and permanently solve your own water problem. It legally demands that accessing clean, life-saving water always comes with an unavoidable recurring cost attached to your bank account. Moringa ruthlessly destroys that entire financial ecosystem because it grows aggressively in your backyard and self-seeds endlessly. It costs practically nothing to maintain. A corporation absolutely cannot build a lucrative monthly subscription model around a wild weed that anyone can harvest. They simply cannot charge you recurring maintenance fees for a natural seed that automatically multiplies itself in the dirt. Furthermore, corporate lawyers cannot patent a naturally occurring cationic protein that has existed flawlessly in nature for thousands of millennia. The official EPA regulatory approval process deliberately costs upwards of $3 million just to submit the initial paperwork. No independent Moringa farmer possesses that kind of excessive capital. No university research department has the financial incentive to fund such an expensive bureaucratic war. Only a massive corporation with a rival synthetic product possesses the vast funding required for that application. Obviously, no greedy corporation would ever voluntarily fund the legal paperwork to approve a free, natural alternative that instantly renders their own expensive products entirely obsolete. So this life-saving knowledge sits quietly documented by the United Nations and thoroughly validated by the World Health Organization, yet intentionally kept invisible in America and Europe. It remains completely erased from every mainstream survival guide ever printed. That widespread absence is not a casual oversight or a simple mistake. It is a brilliant, deliberate, and sustained architecture of corporate suppression. But you no longer have to play by their rigged rules. Here is the exact tactical protocol you must follow to utilize Moringa for infinitely clean water at your camp or in a grid-down survival scenario. You can easily acquire a massive supply of dried Moringa seeds online right now for under $2. First, you must carefully remove the hard outer shell to expose the potent inner core. Next, aggressively crush and grind that inner seed until it becomes a highly fine, uniform powder. For every single liter of dangerous water you need to treat, you will actively use roughly 1/4 teaspoon of this crushed powder. Do not just dump the dry dust directly into the large container. You must first add the measured powder to a very small amount of clean water to form a thick, concentrated paste. Once the paste is formed, stir it violently into your heavily contaminated water source for 2 full, uninterrupted minutes. This aggressive agitation is absolutely critical because it immediately activates the dormant proteins and rapidly spreads them through the entire volume of water. After the aggressive mixing, you must transition to stirring the liquid very slowly and gently for 5 to 10 continuous minutes. This gentle motion initiates the vital clumping stage, allowing the positively charged proteins to systematically capture the negatively charged toxins. Finally, you must leave the water to sit completely undisturbed in a dark, quiet place for exactly 30 full minutes. If you watch closely, you will witness a visual miracle as the heavy toxic sediment physically separates and falls directly to the bottom of the container. After the 30 minutes have passed, carefully pour the top 2/3 of the crystal clear water into a separate sterilized container. You now possess hydration that is scientifically proven to be 97 to 99% biologically clean. However, in a severe survival situation, you must always aim for maximum safety. You should strictly boil this purified water after the moringa treatment step is complete. The moringa seeds flawlessly remove the heavy biological load and massive chemical contaminants, while the final boiling step absolutely eliminates any microscopic threats that might be stubbornly lingering. This ancient field-tested process strictly requires no expensive plastic filter, no mechanical hand pump, no electrical grid, and absolutely zero ongoing financial cost. It is the exact same reliable method that United Nations field teams successfully deployed across sub-Saharan Africa for 4 continuous decades. It perfectly functions in remote regions with no power grid, no access to modern filters, and a completely collapsed supply chain. It will save your life drinking from a freezing mountain stream, and it will equally protect you when drinking from a heavily flooded suburban field. Properly dried seeds will safely store in your bug-out bag for up to 2 full years without losing a single drop of their lethal purifying effectiveness. A mere $2 investment in these raw seeds will effortlessly treat hundreds of liters of dangerous river water. Absolutely no commercial emergency kit currently sitting in any retail outdoor store even comes close to matching that staggering cost-to-benefit ratio. This profound survival knowledge did not just randomly disappear from public consciousness. Someone incredibly powerful made absolutely sure it stayed permanently buried. The United Nations openly published the facts. The World Health Organization confirmed the data. Medical journals heavily documented the science. Yet the $4.5 billion filter industry just kept relentlessly selling you their expensive plastic tubes. Every retail manager stocking those $60 plastic straws absolutely knows that Moringa is real and effective. They possess the exact same official reports that any dedicated researcher can easily find online within a single hour of searching. They made a conscious, deliberate choice not to carry this life-saving natural alternative. That specific choice has a very clear, unapologetic financial motive, designed to keep you totally dependent on their system. We are fighting a massive war of information, and you are the ultimate weapon against this corporate greed. If this powerful revelation opened your eyes to the harsh reality of the survival industry, you must take immediate action. Hit the subscribe button and share this specific video across all your networks right now. Every single share ensures this suppressed truth reaches someone who might desperately need it in a real, life-or-death emergency. Every new subscriber officially joins the ranks of Primal Methods, keeping our independent vault of knowledge permanently open against the massive corporations who desperately want it shut. This ancient survival knowledge did not die in the jungles of India. It was maliciously buried by greedy men in expensive suits. But deeply buried things always eventually surface when the right people start digging. Welcome to Primal Methods, where we expose the lies and teach you how to truly survive.